Granted, Glenn Howerton isn't doing anything he hasn't done already, but they use his strengths from It's Always Sunny in this movie powerfully.
It's not us, Jim, it's the carrier. Verizon is doing something weird.
Okay, well, I'm about to do something weird if you don't fix this. Now!
Drive-By Movies, you're watching
Fresh releases.
My name is Blaise.
And my name is James.
And this week we're talking Matt Johnson's latest film, Blackberry.
What's happening, man? I created this entire market. You said they were the best engineers in the world.
I said they're the best engineers in Canada.
Blackberry is the new film from Canada that has made its way stateside. It is a hit with critics, not a hit with normal audiences, unfortunately. The movie is about the story of a meteoric rise and catastrophic demise of the world's first smartphone. Blaise, what are your thoughts on Blackberry?
So, as a huge Matt Johnson fan, as a huge Nirvana, the band, the show fan, I can't remember if you ever checked out that TV show, but it was on Viceland, I think was the TV channel. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he did also the film The Dirties and Operation Avalanche. I think this is his third feature film. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was hilarious at times. I thought it was like a very entertaining corporate, I think the new term is corporate biopic. After this year's Air and Blackberry, it's become a new genre that's starting up the corporate biopic of like how these corporations become instead of the personal biopic. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was hilarious. I don't know how true to story it is, but it was an entertaining comedy. It seems like we don't often get that many comedies, so you know, I really appreciated this movie.
Yeah, I really liked its take on biopics because there's nothing really like it, and just the fact that it's like on something that like we all know. And I didn't realize that, like, when I think Blackberry, I think of like how hard it tanked when, like, you know, smartphones like really took over and everything. I mean, I know it's technically the first smartphone, but let's say when things got more interactive with touchscreen stuff, like but so, like, you know, we all think of the demise around then, but I didn't realize like how big of an event Blackberry was when it first came out. I mean, granted, I was a kid and only had a smartphone at that time, and then out of nowhere just graduated to an iPhone. I believe iPhone 4 was when it became mainstream and more the normies like me started to get it and stuff. But yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I am familiar with Nirvana, the band, the show. I think it was 2 seasons, if I'm not correct, but I think I only watched the first season. Matt Johnson's just such a fun filmmaker to watch. Like, I'm really stoked that you and I have watched his career since the beginning. Like, I remember going to Comic-Con, and, you know, even though Kevin Smith's newest movies, you know, aren't my thing, though, I always loved watching him speak. And the way he talked about how much he saw how much like inspiration he saw in Matt Johnson and The Dirties, and how he wanted to produce that movie and gave him his shot. And I'm just glad that like Matt Johnson has this huge, like, not huge, but like this really big cult following that's very dedicated and loves all his work. And this is just up there. And I love It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And granted, Glenn Howerton isn't doing anything he hasn't done already in that show, but they use his strengths from It's Always Sunny in this movie powerfully. And it's just like laugh out loud hilarious seeing those tantrums.
It is interesting, actually, now that you mention it, because I totally forgot that The Dirties was Kevin Smith's produced by Kevin Smith, and it was in that same era. I think it's 2007 through 2009, where all major filmmakers were finding a younger filmmaker and producing their first big screen debut that was gonna be in theaters. I think The Dirties only made it to like indie cinemas, but I'm thinking of what's the film that Guillermo del Toro did with Troy Nixey? And then there was also a film called Nine with Shane Mouse and Tim Burton. I think Shane Mouse.
I do remember that one, but I can't remember the one, the collaboration with Guillermo, though.
The Guillermo one was Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
Oh, okay.
That was
Now I
his
remember that,
collaboration. Then there was Fede Alvarez working alongside Sam Raimi with his rendition of Evil Dead. It all started from some short film that was CGI heavy called, I think it's called Panic. All these stem from like short films to become, you know, some random feature that they were now going to be directing. But the whole thing was like a major filmmaker was championing these new first take filmmakers. And it's interesting to see that, you know, besides Fede Alvarez, I think that Matt Johnson's really like the only director from that crop that's really still working, and he's not working alongside Kevin Smith or anything. He's just still producing movies or TV shows of his own volition, and it's kind of interesting. It's definitely a time that I feel like people forgot of. It was that little blip in cinema history where like these filmmakers were giving other filmmakers their first shot.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those filmmakers also kind of are still remembered for that first film they made. Like Neil Blomkamp's making his return to cinema after his YouTube series I saw for that Need for Speed movie, or is it Gran Turismo?
Turismo.
Yeah, I guess he's directing that movie, and I know that, you know, he was like the protege of Peter Jackson and stuff.
Sure.
And while Fede Alvarez has, like, you know, come out and made some great movies, like I'd still say he's kind of stuck under Sam Raimi's shell. Versus Matt Johnson, if you're familiar with him, or, you know, if I doubt you really know him as the protege for Kevin Smith. So I'm glad that Kevin Smith just gave him his voice and just was like, all right, you're free, go out and do whatever you want and stuff. Versus, you know, other filmmakers where I know it's a tough business and stuff, but a lot of them are kind of still stuck with that first film that like was their, like, you know, considered their best. Whereas Matt Johnson just, I'd say, keeps getting better and better. And this film, I'm glad it's getting such great reviews because it's so fun. Jay Baruchel, an actor we don't see too often, but like very underrated. And I always like everything I see him in, like underrated in Goon, underrated in, you know, like most people think of like the Seth Rogen comedies he did and stuff, but like movies like this and Goon, like all the stuff he does for Canada, I guess, are just a lot of fun.
Everything for Canada.
Yeah.
That he does to like, you know, just push his flag forward. But yeah, getting back to Blackberry, this is definitely one of those stories where I feel like I knew it was going to have like a comedic take going into it, but I didn't know it was going to be just like basically a full-on comedy. I mean, they really tell the story of Blackberry to an extent, but it just takes so many moments to get like a huge laugh. I thought that it had moments in it that were very interesting, especially when it comes to like the corporate takeover almost. Like that whole story with Carrie Ellis was like I thought that was hilarious. Like that whole corporate takeover where he's like taking them out to lunch. They're like, this guy's crazy. Like this guy that we're at lunch is crazy. And then he's literally blackmailing, threatening them that he can easily just come in and buy out their stock and take over the entire company. And they're just screwed. I thought that was highly entertaining. Some of the corporate jargon here and there throughout this film really propels it forward beyond just its comedy.
Yeah. And another thing is like, it definitely has like Matt Johnson's like, you know, like style in it, in sense of just like the funny use of like camera work too. Like I was really impressed with the cinematography. Like granted, when people think cinematography, they think epic shots, like establishing shots, interesting takes and stuff. But a lot of it also like are planned shots that were used for comedic value, like zoom ins and stuff. Like one of the best scenes I thought was a scene where Jay Baruchel's on the phone and like it's a slow zoom in and it gives like this horror feeling, atmospheric moment of intensity, and then out of nowhere it just pans and zooms straight into Matt Johnson's like face and stuff, and just like I started dying laughing. Like little planned things like that just come a long way and stuff. And you can tell also he was just dressing in stuff that he's interested in, seeing, you know, They Live t-shirt, the Thing t-shirt, a Doom t-shirt, and even an Alisana t-shirt. I was like, what the heck? He's a emo kid growing up. Like for those of you who don't know, Alisana was like this god-awful emo screamo band that I enjoyed in high school, but they're one of those bands that did not age gracefully in my personal opinion. Sorry if you're watching this, Alisana, but yeah.
Are they from Canada? Is that why? That has to be why, right? Like they have to be from Canada.
I think they're from the South. Like I think they're from Florida or Georgia or something like that. I could be wrong though, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they have to be. It's got to be some reference where they're from Canada or something. It's got to be some hometown reference. Besides the Mortal Kombat 2 reference T-shirt and everything like that. Yeah. But yeah, I thought that I loved also. I think one thing I really liked about this movie was it was like the ultimate. There's a lot of like startup movies, like, you know, Social Network and stuff. But this was the ultimate startup movie where it's literally people that are talented at what they do, but they just want to like have fun. Like they're not necessarily partying and doing coke or anything, but they're like, you know, having a movie night. They want to like be like a family almost. But then like the corporation comes in and needs to like extract every ounce of profitability out of the company to a fault at times. Mm-hmm. And to the demise of the company towards the end. I'm not saying like maybe if they were on the path of constantly always having fun, like would they have been successful? Maybe, maybe not. Who's to say? But it was interesting to see that battle that all startups go through of like, when are we going to grow up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, I mean, I think it was like definitely intentional. Also, like, I have no idea what the real life Mike looked like, the character that Jay played. But just the fact that he at first looks like a very kind Bill Gates, basically, and then just graduates into Julian Assange at the like towards the later half of the movie. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, like his hair and just like the whole outfits that he went into, like definitely intentional and was also comedic as well.
I definitely thought I was watching The Fifth State for a second. Like I did wonder, it's like one scene he's just like all of a sudden gray hair, but they don't make like a comedic joke about it. I thought that it was hilarious in a way.
Bringing in Michael Ironside also was badass as hell too. Don't see him enough, but it was nice to see him in not so much a cult movie and just like, you know, this movie I wouldn't say is normal, but just a more normal lined movie. Yeah, already halfway through the year, and this is probably going to be top 2 movies of the year for me, and I can't wait to rewatch it. Definitely has that rewatchability to it. I absolutely love The Social Network, and I've rewatched that movie countless times over the years, but this one is definitely more along the lines of just like has that better humor and just like I just like the underdog but also failure aspect within this movie. So yeah, I definitely see myself rewatching. I hope it becomes a classic and does start to gain traction with audiences after the good reviews it's been getting. But great way to help support the shows by watching it and checking it out. Coming back here to leave a comment, let us know what you thought about the movie.
And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and click that notification bell to get all of our latest updates.
If you can't get enough of us here on YouTube, be sure to catch all our social media links down below. We got Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, as well as our own personal Letterboxd accounts. That'll conclude this week's episode. Tune in next week for a brand new video.